After more than a 5-year crossover drought, the 3-1 Chicago shows, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med, will unite once again during the 2024 to 2025 TV season, and it couldn't have come at a better time for all 3 series. The One Chicago universe debuted with Chicago Fire in 2012, and following its instant success, NBC quickly put together a franchise. Since the premiere of Chicago PD, and later the debut of Chicago Med, the 3 shows have crossed over on multiple occasions, whether it's for a big event or a quick cameo. According to TV Line, the creative minds behind the One Chicago franchise are developing a one-night, 3-episode crossover event involving Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD. A date has not been announced as of the writing of this article, but a plotline has. The story for the first One Chicago crossover in 5 years will begin with an office building explosion that sends the entire city into chaos. The firefighters, police officers, doctors, and other first responders will have to come together to save lives and discover who's responsible. Why hasn't a 3-show One Chicago crossover happened since 2019? COVID-19 was a big factor. With more than 680 episodes and 26 seasons under its belt, the One Chicago franchise is undoubtedly one of the most successful ones on network TV. So, it makes sense why NBC would want to take full advantage of its power and release crossovers. However, following infection in October 2019, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med haven't had a 3-part crossover event. There are many reasons for this 5-year hiatus, but most of them circle back to the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 shut down almost all film and TV productions in the spring of 2020. When they were able to come back, most casts and crews had to follow certain protocols to ensure everyone's safety. Unfortunately, these restrictions meant that a 3-part crossover between Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med wasn't logical. So, bringing the 3 shows together was pushed to the back burner. The One Chicago characters from different TV shows couldn't interact, and every series did its own thing for a while. Plus, the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes in 2023 further delayed any potential plans for crossovers, why One Chicago needs its 3-show crossover. Crossovers have become a cornerstone of the NBC franchise. It makes sense why it has been 5 years since the last big One Chicago crossover. However, that doesn't make the frustration from the lack of them go away. It's exciting for fans to see their favorite characters from different TV series interact with one another and work together in one major story. Before COVID-19, crossovers were a significant part of the franchise, and it hasn't felt right ever since One Chicago entered this drought. Sure, the casts of Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med can survive, not exactly thrive, on their own, but the shows undoubtedly benefit from crossovers. It goes without saying that the quality of each series has decreased in the past few years. They haven't been unwatchable. However, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med have all experienced heartbreaking cast exits and frustrating repetitive tedious storylines. Consequently, One Chicago needs a crossover now more than ever, and, thankfully, prayers have been answered.